Welcome on in. On this Friday, we've been talking basketball. We've been talking all sorts of stuff. And now, are we going to talk a little soccer, DJ?
If you would like to, PK.
Or are we going to wait? We're going to wait till 9:30 to talk about?
Schmid's coming up at 9:30.
What do you want to talk about now?
Well, I think we should talk about what you brought up early this morning, and David Locke just touched on this. This is the home finale.
Yes.
It's the last regular season game.
Yes.
It has been 4 long years without the playoffs. We're anticipating that changes next year. We'll see if it does or doesn't, but we're anticipating it is. The fan base is largely hung in there. I think we all know people in our lives who are like, I don't watch as many games as I used to, or I can't watch this tanking stuff. We've heard all of that. But the arena stayed full, and I think we all anticipate that it's going to be different next year when they're winning. So is this, and have they kind of confirmed it here in this last 4 years, is this the best fan base in the NBA? David Locke had an interesting answer. I was a little surprised he didn't go to Seattle because he lived in Seattle. He's got a soft spot for Seattle. I was up there a couple times. Granted, it was playoff games. I don't think I ever saw the Sonics play a regular season game in Seattle. But I thought Seattle had a really good fan base. He went right to the Warriors in Oakland, and they weren't good. Now they're in San Francisco, and they are good, so it's a different deal. The new arena's been built not far from the Giants ballpark to take advantage of all the money living downtown and living on the peninsula. So they've left Oakland, but he said they were bad for a long stretch of time, and those games were always good. You actually brought up Oakland. Now, that wasn't in the arena. That was at a playoff, a finals game, but you were watching it in a restaurant kind of sports bar type of setting,
yes.
And it was a raucous crowd.
It was fun.
I saw one game there in the regular season, but they're playing the Lakers with Magic in that era. So, of course, the place was on fire. You know, there's a whole Northern California, Southern California thing, and it's Magic, and the Lakers are awesome. I'm trying to think, maybe San Antonio. They've had so many championships now, but that was usually a pretty good place and pretty good crowds and seemed like a lot of enthusiasm before they had their championships.
Yeah, that's the only show in town at the professional level.
Right, which is what the Jazz benefited from for a long time. It's a different animal when you're in, the Knicks fans, the Celtics fans, the Warriors fans. They've all got something else they can go do, right? They've got the NFL, the NBA, the
20
NHL,
more
the
million
MLB.
people
They
there.
got it all in those towns.
They got
so
so
it's
many...
a little different when you're in Oklahoma City or Salt Lake City or San Antonio, and you're the show.
I think the most important thing is it's impossible to measure, are they the best or the second best, what have you, is that you need everything in to create the type of environment that you want to, that players want to be in. And you need to have a passionate fan base. The players love that type of stuff, and they get it here. That's what matters the most. Whether it's second, first, 10th, whatever, who knows. But I have enough experience, as do you, and I've lived in 4 different states, and each of them had an NBA team, and this one is right there. It's right there it compares favorably to Phoenix. I mean, in the New York area, you got 3 states. You got 25 million people.
Yes.
And I can tell you from my experience, and I don't think it's changed much, is that the Knicks were, at that time of year, they were the dominant talk. And then in those places, as you evolve into spring and their season ends, then you move into the baseball, right? And then you move into the football. And in that area particularly, it just revolved around the pros. Very rarely are you're not discussing college that much. It's such a pro area. And here we get that, and we will get that, and we will get that next year. I believe they're going to make minimum the play-in, which to me is still the postseason. They just extended the postseason by 2 teams. If you're playing an early 80, Andre Torney spoke about this. Our goal was to play an 83rd game. He said the phrase 83rd game, and in the NBA, you're playing the 83rd game. You can phrase it any way you want. It's an 83rd game, right? And so I believe minimally they'll be there, and that'll be the dominant talk. What's going to be interesting We're going to have that this year, obviously, with the Mammoth being in the postseason, and it'll rock, and it'll take center stage. It'll lead the everything, whatever TV, internet, talk radio, that's what the lead will be. I want to see how it's going to be next year, maybe if they're playing on the same night. That would be really entertaining to me. Or they're playing one place one night, one place the next. What we want to talk about, you and me and Yak, we want to talk about what they, being the listenership, wants to talk about. I think we just talked about earlier, an hour ago, how we're starting now our 25th year. Well, one of the keys to me, in my mind, lasting 25 years or 24 plus is that we talk about what they want to hear. So Yak's a local guy. We're not, but we are now. But when we started, we ingratiated ourselves up to our eyeballs in local. Try to know, and I've been talking to people who want into sports radio as yesterday and throughout these last several weeks, obviously. And it's saying you got to just get as much information as you can about the locals and add to the hockey. And I think Utah State has risen in prominence, and BYU and Utah are already there, and the Jazz are already there, and just consume yourself with as much information as you can, and then form opinions, and then not just your opinions, but have people tell you, which helps you form your opinion, and you relay information that they give you, blah, 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 and we know the secrets and the formula for success. Well, how's it going to be, when both teams are in the playoffs? That's what I want to see, because that's going to be a great time.
Well, the first thing you'll see is the arena swamped, and you'll see people in team gear. Because more than ever, even more than 10 years ago, that is such a thing. And it just strikes me walking into buildings. You used to see people wearing all kinds of different stuff. You can go back and watch old video on YouTube from whatever decade you want, and it's really changed. Everybody was in suits. Everybody's in casual clothes, and now everybody is in team gear. And the whole concept of whiteouts and blueouts and greenouts and blackouts and whatever other color whatever team is wearing, it's really just completely taken over. I think that to your point about us talking about what people want to talk to, for people who want to get into the business, it's amazing to me how often they get in so that they can talk about what they want to talk about. And you and I can all talk about people that we know who only want to talk basketball, and somebody else only wants to talk football, or somebody else only wants to talk about this school, or somebody only wants to talk about that school. And the funny thing is that with podcasting, that actually becomes more plausible, that you can really narrow. For what you and I were doing when we started doing it, that didn't work. And it still doesn't really work for sports radio, but sports radio and podcasting are blending. It's super blurry. We're asked to do specific podcasts. We are still doing a show, but the show is podcast, both as an hour format and specific interviews. So there is a little more of an opportunity there. I have talked to people who work in both hockey and soccer, and you've frequently drawn the parallels between the two of them. Big enough to be a thing, but not big enough to compete with the biggest things like the NFL,
right?
And in this market, certainly the NBA. And they have both said, those two fan bases couldn't find anything in the traditional old school media and have really gone to digital media and embraced it. Now, I think it won't be long before we're all there. David Locke talked about that. And, he's got podcasts that are in his network focused on every NBA team, on every NFL team, on major colleges. So it seems like that's where it's going. And what you and I had to do, it's not as true as it was. In another 10 years, it may not be relevant. But for us, you're right. Figure out what people want to talk about. And in the playoffs, aren't people going to want to talk about a winner? Don't they always want to talk about the winner?
Of course they want to talk about the winner, but I think that then they want to gripe about the loser too, or they want to gripe about the refereeing. The beautiful thing in hockey is you rarely hear about the refereeing, so we don't have to worry about that. The NBA is probably the most referee-oriented sport that we have because it's easier to see. Nobody's looking at the interior in football. Even if you're on television, you can barely even see it. And so they don't get into it that much. And more on the pass interference type of stuff because that's over there, as they say, on a proverbial island, and you can see it in person, and you can also see it on TV. But none of us can see whether that was holding or not and what they'd call or if they didn't call it, what have you. It's crazy. But those pass interference things, they become huge. Or maybe an edge block. Is it a block in the back type thing?
I always thought it was basketball 1, baseball 2, football 3. And it must be hockey 4 because I never really thought about hockey because you're right, you don't hear a lot about it. There have been some spectacular meltdowns in hallways underneath arenas with coaches screaming at referees because when they do give a penalty, it's such an advantage. So I wouldn't say there's nothing in hockey. There's some memorable stuff out there on YouTube with people completely losing it. But with baseball, I wonder with the new automatic strike zone if it's going to be less of a thing between the replays of the bags and the automatic strike zone. Now, having said that, we had a manager thrown out this week. I don't think we talked about it much, but he got his money's worth. I think he was
that was
arguing
on a balk call.
Balk, yeah, he was arguing a
Toronto and the
call.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
Right.
He got his money's worth. I thought of you when I saw that clip. I was like, see, there's a guy really losing it. That's what PK wants. He's not kicking dirt on home plate, but he's snapping.
Well, right. This is his chance to snap. He's got all that frustration built up because they can't argue with some dude back in Secaucus.
Yeah, you just give it the replay signal.
Yeah.
What's the signal for the balls and strikes? How to know that?
They tap their helmet.
Yeah. It was the helmet tap. Yeah. The helmet tap, and that is awesome.
Right.
Taking all of that out of the game, which is speeding it up. So. That's good.
And I kind of miss that because I view sports as entertainment. And anytime you've ever been in a big league game or any game for that matter, minor league game, if the manager, coach goes nose to nose with the umpire, the adrenaline and the enthusiasm and the energy just surges in that stadium every time.
I remember as a kid and being in a really big stadium with really small crowds, maybe 15,000 people in a 50,000 seat stadium, but people would be standing up and yelling. I mean, I can just close my eyes and hear it right now. And it'd be like we were sitting out in the outfield, out in the bleachers, and you're 300 feet away. It doesn't matter. Stand up. Yeah.
Right. They're either cheering or they're jeering. Right. Cheering if it's the home guy, and he always gets a standing O when he's gone. His face has gotten bright red, and he's going berserko. And then as he's finally done, and he walks back, that you can see the crowd, particularly if whatever dugout, first or third, the people behind him are giving him a standing O. And if it's the visitor, they're jeering him. But we don't really have the enemies or the villains is probably the better word on opposing managers anymore. You can hardly even name them.
No, I told it. I think NFL coaches, I could probably name more of the NFL coaches, but basketball and baseball, especially in baseball, there's so many organizations where the rep is like the GM is basically setting the lineup. And even some of the situational stuff. And it really goes back to the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt. He's basically telling Art Howe, hey, you're going to start this guy. No, I fill out the lineup card. So he trades the guy away.
Yeah. And
that's a 25-year-old story now.
I just can't tell you how many times I've been out in Utah and people ask me if my name is Brad. And this is a joke.
Mr. Pitt, can I pose for a selfie?
Yeah, I mean, so many times. I've gotten to the point where I just sign it now.
You're still signing autographs, no selfies, huh?
Well, yeah, and I signed Brad Pitt. Yeah, I mean, if they want the selfies.
I look hot in leather. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean, showgirls will verify it for me.
Nice. Do it,
PK,
Yuck.
take it off, baby.
Again? My gosh.
You're killing me. All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the chief soccer officer, Real Salt Lake. They got a bye this week, 6 games in. It's been a great start. Where do they go from here? We'll talk with Kurt Schmid next. Stay with us. Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. We're going to talk with Kurt Schmid, chief soccer officer, Real Salt Lake, here in just a minute. To catch the Slackers up to date, the big story is the continuing story, and that is the Masters, PK. The guys who scored well yesterday have not gone out on the course yet. Sam Burns, Rory McIlroy.
Right.
They're all waiting. Mostly the scores are better earlier in the day, and then they're higher later in the day. So Friday you flip it, and then theoretically that evens out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the weather. So we'll see. No one's really made a charge to the top of the leaderboard yet. Brooks Koepka, 2 under now. So maybe he's picking up a little steam. Wyndham Clark is 2 under now. So there are a couple guys making a little bit of a move.
Yes, be interesting to see where you are. There's some thought that this thing is won on day 2 and day 3, that you really set the stage for day 4, how much of a buffer you have, what you need, because the pressure obviously increases on Sunday. And so you need to put together, you need to be in the ballpark on Thursday, but Friday and Saturday is when you can really make your move to set yourself up and view it as sort of a horse race type thing. And obviously Sunday would be down the stretch and be most of the stretch. But if you have a good lead or you put yourself in position, then you can withstand whatever may happen on a Sunday. So today, obviously, as it is, it's only 4 days. Every day is important. But I think today is critical.
Scotty Scheffler has just bogeyed the 4th hole, so he is now 1 under for the tournament after that. So he is out on the course now, and we'll keep track of these guys. Bob Casper, Brian Taylor are there, and they'll be joining every show all day long, giving you updates.
Yeah.
And they'll have their show tomorrow morning from 8 to 10.
The thing about Scotty is, he's got Meredith and Bennett and Remy.
Yep.
Why do I know their names?
Well,
I mean, Erica and Poppy. I mean, I know their names for McIlroy, but why do I not know Sam Burns' wife and kids' names?
He hasn't won enough yet. Give it time.
I do know Jason Day's wife is from Cleveland, of all places.
Of all places?
Right.
You got something against Cleveland?
Well, no. It's just that he's an Australian, but he lives in Cleveland because of her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Brooks Koepka's wife, I don't know her name, but I know her intimately because I watched Full Swing.
You and Yak watched that when it came out. I binged it later, and I didn't know what you guys were talking about. I mean, I could kind of guess, right? I get to that, I'm like, yeah, that's what they're talking about. That's pretty obvious. Okay.
Well, what else would it have been? Come on.
No secrets. Yeah, but it was more about the way she carried herself.
Yeah, I like dental floss just as much as the next guy.
Well, we just kind of hit it off. She goes bouncing out to the pool. She literally runs on her toes.
I didn't know this thing was rated R here.
She's like a rabbit. Just going. It's like you can't
Meanwhile,
run.
Mrs. Hatch is side-eyeing me as my son is watching it with me.
Yeah, I bet. There was some nonverbal communication. It was very, very loud.
Oh, brother.
Exactly. What do you know about Brooks Koepka? What, a little more than I wish I knew.
Oh, really? Yeah. So
You getting the side-eye, Yak. That's awesome.
I watched it by myself 4 times.
Sure you did.
There are movies that are, they're so deep. There's so many subtle things going on. You got to watch them again. Sometimes you got to watch a play. That was a crazy play. I got to back it up and watch it again. There was a lot going on there. That I think you got that on the first. You got that on the first viewing. You knew what was going on there.
It was a little over the top for me, or not enough underneath, I guess, and depending on how you want to look at it. I would be so uncomfortable if that was my wife.
Yeah.
I'm a big less.
Less is more.
Yeah, in terms of
Yes,
I would say understated is more.
Okay.
I find that more that gets me more interested. But I mean that's me.
Yeah.
You can be different. I don't care. I like understated.
Some of the other stories we talked about today, Major League Baseball, the average salary rose 3.5% on opening day to a record $5.34 million. Juan Soto, the top paid player for the second straight year, $61.9 million. What do you think the expectations are for him and the Mets? Talk about money and pressure, and we were talking about Markkanen, and Jackson, $50 million players expected to lead the Jazz next year. Pressure comes with the money, $61.9 million.
Oh, they're
Meanwhile,
huge.
across
They're
town,
as
the
high
Yankees
as
are
anybody in sport. I mean, yeah, it's New York, and the thing about baseball is stats matter, and the thing is flashed every time you step into the batter's box, so everybody and their dog knows it.
All right, DJ, PK, it's time to bring in Kurt Schmid, Chief Soccer Officer for Real Salt Lake. Kurt, good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
Doing all right. I am curious here with the team off this weekend, 6 games in, a little bit of a sample size here. How surprised are you by the way the start of the season has gone? Maybe not just the results, but also the different players have been called on to play and how they performed.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously we believe in all those guys. So to see them play well I wouldn't say surprising, but it's certainly gratifying to see them take their opportunity, because that's ultimately what it's about is providing talented players an opportunity to show themselves, and then it's up to them at that point. So we've prepared them for the chance, and a lot of guys have taken their chance when it's presented itself.
It's sort of, you can argue this is a freshness given the ages of some of these kids, you can call them literally. How much has that energized the entire club and really everybody, the organization, guys like you?
Yeah, I think everyone's excited by it, and I think, this is sort of the tip of the iceberg. We took, a few years ago, we really reinvested in the academy structure, the academy pipeline, the coaching, the off the field stuff, the education, everything. Tony Beltran's done a great job. John Spencer and the recruitment side and putting, stocking with talent and developing those young players. And this is sort of the first age group that was part of this reinvigoration, I guess you could say. And, they've actually done really, really well. We like to think that there's more where that came from, and hopefully we'll see that over the next few years.
Not only Real Salt Lake's academy, but other academies around the league have a reputation for developing goalkeepers and defenders and sometimes midfielders, but maybe not so much with the attacking players. There have been a handful of them, to be sure, but just not in the same numbers. And certainly that had been true at RSL until Gozo and Herzog Kane have both come in and played well. Do you feel like some kind of corner is being turned there, or is it more just there happen to be talents and these guys are gifted and they've developed it and so be it, but maybe it doesn't mean that much going forward? It's just about these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say a corner has been turned so much, but I think it's always been tougher to break into those attacking positions because historically that's where MLS teams will spend a lot of their money on their foreign acquisitions is in those positions. So it was always a much tougher ask to ask a young academy kid to break through in a place where it was more talent rich than other parts of the field. But, when we look at the talent that we have in the academy, and some of it is intentional and some of it is obviously happenstance, certain age groups are strong in certain areas versus others. But we've had a very strong group of attackers come through and then it just becomes, a difficult, a good problem to have with, between myself and, Jason, Tony, coaching staff and working on how to get those guys into those games and taking that risk, showing that trust in them to do what they can do or to show that they can do what we know they can. And then once they've done it, now they're the guys that, can establish themselves in those attacking spots and then the next group can come through. But yeah, it's always been tougher there. And that's why you've seen a lot of defenders and maybe midfielders break through historically.
Do you have a guy like a 22-year-old Diego Luna go to Gozo and these guys say, hey, kid, here's what you need to do?
Sometimes. I mean, I would say that's pretty idiosyncratic in terms of the personalities of the individuals involved. But yeah, I think you have that in very explicit ways, like you just described, where it's like, grabbing a guy and telling him what you've learned or what to expect. And then you've got the sort of the implicit ways where it's just a little bit of, hey, here's a guy that you're sharing a locker room with every day that's followed, or taken a path that you want to take or that you want to follow, and it's just inspiring, and it's, you know, you can learn from example as well. So having guys that sit next to you every day that have done things that you want to do are obviously it's a very helpful guiding light for these young players.
Everybody wins differently. I get that. But there's a part of me that glances at the standings now and sees RSL giving up 8 goals, Vancouver 4, Seattle 2, San Jose 1, and LAFC through 6 games hasn't given up a goal yet. Most of the top teams in the West are very stingy defensively. RSL not quite so much. Do you think that's something that'll just kind of even out over time? Is there some work that needs to be done there by RSL, or different teams win different ways? Don't worry about it.
I guess the answer to your question is both. In the short term, yeah, don't worry about it. If we're getting the results, we're getting the results. And, winning games 5-4 gets you as many points as winning games 1-0. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't worry about it. From a mid or longer term view, it's certainly something that, that has been identified and is being worked on. And I think when you look at the changes that we made in the off season, both structurally and personnel-wise, that's where we did a lot of work, is in the back line. And I think we've added some really good pieces there and a little bit more experience, but there are also new pieces and guys that need to gel and work together. And, we're playing with the 3 center backs, with the 2 wing backs. And you look at, of those sort of 5 positions, there's basically 1 guy that started, for the majority of last year in that position. So out of the other 4 guys are adapting to either a new team, a new city, new teammates, obviously, a new system, or all of the above. So it's something that I think will come with time and the group settles in together.
You had the break the week before, and then the situation being this week. And Pablo talks about the sports science of it a lot, and how you guys got all these guys on your staff that training and resting and blah blah blah. And then you got the big break coming up with the World Cup. How are you using these times that you've had before, and now you got one, to aid in what you are expecting to do at that point when the break is bigger?
Yeah, it just gives the guys, the staff, more run time, more lead time, and to work on some things that are less sort of imminent, less about, hey, how are we going to play this weekend, more on like, how do we want to play just broadly. It's almost like, it gets you back to the sessions that were being run more in preseason, where you're working on concepts and principles. So, those are good moments to have, but on the other hand as well, momentum and confidence are all real things, and, they're intangibles, but they're real. And, you don't want to have too many breaks or gaps in the schedule when you're riding high on those things. So, it's up to us to come out of these 2 breaks, and we did it against Kansas City, but still feeling as strong and as hot as we were going into them.
I don't know exactly what this new calendar is going to look like. I've heard mixed stuff about it, but it sounds like there's going to be 2 long breaks, but long being like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. It seems like there's going to have to be some type of rhythm to how you handle, whether it's a winter break for the weather or the end of the season before the next season starts, but they might be about the same length. So you guys trying to figure out what that looks like as far as a couple weeks time off, a couple weeks of camp, a couple weeks traveling for camp, and a couple weeks of camp in town, and that it seems like that's going to be a whole different beast.
Yeah, it's certainly going to add a different rhythm to the season, and I don't think the winter break is going to happen right smack in the middle of the schedule each year either. I don't think it's going to be 17 before and 17 after. I think it's going to be skewed a little bit with more games before the winter break than after. So it's not something where you can plan on, hey, we're going to fix it all in the winter break with transfers or with training. But there's a lot of leagues in the world that do this sort of thing. And like you mentioned, there's a sort of a mini preseason. You almost have 2 preseasons, one in the summer, and then you'll have one in the winter as well. And, I think it'll feel familiar just because, that's what we do now in terms of that sort of late January and February, early February training camp. And so that actually will feel pretty familiar for a lot of guys. And, It's really just the way the schedule is split up. And I think that's one of the selling points of the switch is, in terms of teams that play in sort of colder weather, is that the footprint is actually pretty similar in both calendars. It's just where the start and where the end is, and how many teams are playing. Later into November is obviously will be more in the flip schedule, because nowadays it's just the teams that advance far in the playoffs.
As far as your own schedule, do you have? Is this kind of a quiet time for people around the world who have the job description you have? The titles change in different leagues, but the same responsibility for going out and finding talent. Is this a little bit of a quiet period for scouting, or are you already getting calls and people are trying to line up whatever deals they want to make in the next transfer window?
No, it's all sort of happening. I mean, I guess it's as quiet as it ever gets, right after sort of a window closes, because that's the farthest you are from doing anything for the next window. So from that standpoint, yes, I guess it is a quiet time, but no, as far as, signings for summer, us, bringing guys in, taking calls on interest in our players and looking at ways that we can improve the team coming out of the World Cup break, that process never really stops, never breaks. Obviously, with our current calendar mismatch, we've got to find the moments to make sure we go out and do our due diligence on guys that we want to bring in as well. So we've got to get that in before the European season ends, before the World Cup as well. So that's all stuff that, never really stops as we work through it.
Kurt, thanks for a few minutes. We appreciate it. Good luck.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Kurt Schmid, Chief Soccer Officer for Real Salt Lake. We'll take a break and come back with your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
Whirls around and down.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone is your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz. And we want to send you to the Delta Center to see the Jazz in action. Listen every Tuesday for the Jazz Ticket Tuesday Sounder at 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. And if you're caller number 12, you'll be on your way to an upcoming game.
Buy one, you'll get one free.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, every Tuesday throughout the NBA season on your radio home for the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's time for your feedback. Do the Jazz really have the best fans in the NBA? Tonight's the home finale. And we have a lot of people saying yes, but we got some negativity out there, PK. Mike.
Well, they can go right to HE double toothpicks.
Nope, I used to be. The tanking has made me lose interest. Brian, they used to until they pulled this crap over and over. Sad, really.
Well, this is okay, but the key word right there, over. Get it?
See? I do, as a matter of fact. I do get it.
Yes.
We got, let's see, more people weighing in. With Tim, without a doubt, the DC's been rocking forever and will rock forever. Jazz fans are special.
Going back to they pulled this crap, can't I argue that they were forced to pull this crap?
Yes, you can. I think you can. And go back and listen to our conversation with David Locke. I think spreading it out, and I think you think this too, and I think Locke thinks this, every time there are more people in on the lottery, they just encourage more tanking. They'd be better off if, like, the top pick went to the 2 or 3 teams with the worst record. Go back to the coin flip if you want. I think they need to loosen up the trade rules. If there's one thing that I got, if I could go back 4 years and change one prediction about this rebuild that I was so wrong about, it'll be a year or two. They'll make some trade. They'll push it forward. And that trade didn't happen until 3.5 years in when they traded for Jaren Jackson. This is 3.5 years. Ainge's other rebuilds didn't last this long. Yeah, well, his other rebuilds had key trades that didn't happen in this rebuild.
And he had more to start with.
He had quite a bit to start with. I mean,
I'm asking. I'm not debating. I'm asking that as a question.
Do you think he had more to start with here?
No, back then with Boston. I'm asking, did he have more to start with?
No, I mean, he had Pierce on the roster, and he had the 5th pick. I mean,
I'd have to go back and look.
I'd have to look at more of the roster and more, dive into it.
I haven't studied it because I'm just thinking about it right now.
Al Jefferson, he had a rookie who was well thought of,
Yeah, I think that the whole thing about this de-incentivizing winning, you can't build a dynasty and then you have to do this and that within a certain percentage financially. That's all limited fan interest and limited teams from making deals. And I'm not sure that that's good. That's good for the league. It sounds good, so you don't have the Dodgers, but the Dodgers went 7 games last year, and it was the most thrilling World Series you're going to find. And then also, too, Locke was saying, well, the Giants don't have a chance. I would debate that. You were riding the Diamondbacks for winning 84 games and getting into the World Series because they beat the Dodgers along the way.
They did. The Warriors, it wasn't that long ago that the Warriors were awesome, and then because they got a new TV contract and the cap went way up and they brought Durant in. But did that wreck the NBA?
No.
And how long did it last? Yeah, they won a couple of titles.
No, and he's right about the heyday living in L.A. at the time, Boston and L.A. Oh, my gosh, that Boston-L.A. in the finals is like what we're hoping for Sunday and what every golf official is hoping for but can't say it. They want Rory and Scotty battling it out shot for shot on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, the only difference is in golf, it could be 2 guys who pull away and it's essentially match play, but it could also be those 2 and 3 others, and they're all 9 under par, and somebody's got to get to 10 or 11. Golf enables it to be a bigger horse race.
It can be, but I think they would much rather, if they had their dream scenario, it's 2 men, and it's those guys. They'll take it if it's 3 or 4 other guys involved, as long as those 2. But I bet they would want just those 2. The sporting world for a short time on a Sunday afternoon, when there's not really much going on, outside of that, would be locked on that. Are you kidding me? Locked on Scheffler and McIlroy. I just got a job. I'm going to get hired. I'm going to do a daily thing. Locked on Scheffler and McIlroy.
Locked on golf. Oh, man. Jack, who's always tweeting at us. I just heard on the radio about PK being so famous he signs autographs, but he hasn't done the selfie yet. When will the time come when he starts signing body parts? When will he be just that famous? It fits with the PK Take It Off sounder.
Hey, I hope they bury me face down. You know that story, right?
So the critics can kiss my butt.
Wasn't it, Bob Knight?
Kiss my ass.
Yeah. Kiss my ass.
Right to the end.
Kiss my grits.
Well, I guess not to the end, no, because then he comes back when he's older and he's humbled and all that. That's kind of a trite story.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, we're out of time. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the end of the NBA season and the Mammoth in Carolina and the Masters, the back nine Sunday. We will be back here Monday morning. Jake and Ben are coming up next right here on The Zone.